Okay, it's day 91, and this is part one. And yesterday I sort of did a video about how Russia has sort of become a crime partner, an organized crime partner of the FBI and the alphabet agencies in this area of the Navy technology, Navy nuclear technology, and space technology. And all the videos yesterday were on that subject. And I talked about Bannon, I talked about Sessions, and so forth. And all these concepts, when they first go out, they're roundly criticized as conspiratorial or whatever. You know, the hard drives, the broken hard drives at Imran's house, that was a lie. Taggart was a lie. Mark Lambert was a wild goose chase. It was a dead end. Now we've got I just can't count how many stories have been characterized that way when they first come out. But as it slowly sinks in, I remember even the PP dossier when it came out, and PP FISA were criticized as being tangents and so forth. And now we see those are center. The car theft ring here in Virginia was another one. The cars being moved to West Africa and having weapons and drugs, all that. Operation Cassandra was all questioned. But as time went by and documents came out, people realized that this is actually what is happening, that the alphabet agencies, this group within the CIA and a very small group of infiltrators inside the FBI, but at the top of the FBI, have infiltrated our top intelligence agencies to basically go in partnership in organized crime with the Russians. Now, I've never said this before. You heard Deep Uranium say this, that ST, that pair in cryptography circles is special tactics. And then RZ is Russia zone, and then OK is the German abbreviation, German intelligence abbreviation for organized crime. So this whole Strokes plan, is this the Strokes plan? Basically enabling an organized crime network. Okay. Now there's another meaning, and I didn't mean to ever go here, but it's called a ZOC. The last three letters of a ZOC is a hair that you would find near private parts, and a STR ZOC means you're able to pull that hair anytime you want. So there's an expression, having someone by the short hairs is what a Strokes actually is. Again, that's Deep Uranium, inside baseball talk, as far as, I guess it's inside organized crime and alphabet agency talk. Is this a Strzok? Is this whole thing a partnership of our intelligence agencies and elements, rogue elements of the Russian military structure to create an organized crime? Well, if you start looking at the components, it all fits together. For instance, if you have these houses in New York and in Maryland, close to D.C., close to the financial center and the government center, as we've said before, these are the two pay-to-play areas. You basically, you play down here in Washington, D.C., get all the secrets, and you make it pay for yourself up in New York. Isn't this exactly what Steve Bannon did? Isn't this exactly the trajectory of Steve Bannon becoming the chief intelligence officer for the chief of naval operations? Certainly above acute clearance, probably up to a victory clearance. I mean, he probably blew right through Romeo, Sierra, and Tango clearances to get to that victory clearance, and then you can market these things in New York. So you really have to, in order to follow the money, you have to look at the investments that are being made. Again, when deals go wrong, you have people getting killed. You have ambassadors who you want to get out of the picture because you don't want to go to jail, and none of the Uranium One conspirators want to go to jail, believe me, and you start doing things like shutting down the complexes and so forth. You have places like Centreville, Maryland, where you have the Russians. You process payments through the Russian ambassador because you have diplomatic cover. Okay, all these things start making sense if you actually resist the temptation to make an emotional reaction to a new idea that may be true, much like Watergate was resisted when it first came out, and then we found out that that was actually the case. This is 30 Watergates. So just real briefly, this not meant to send everyone to nuclear Navy power school here in Charleston, South Carolina, but the reactor core is the biggest part of the submarine, obviously, and you've got these fuel rods. Now, these are amazingly small. For uranium the size of your fist, they can go on, these ships can go on for their whole life, 40-year life now. It's amazing that the technology has improved. Just a short video to show you a little bit of how it works. There you have it. Obviously very highly classified information. Of course, we had the sailor Saucier arrested for taking pictures of this, because if you were partnering with a Russian crime partner who used to be ex-military, and keep in mind that the payments that were made involved Russian military folks, if you were involved in that kind of criminal activity with giving secrets to the Russians and having things fabricated in Russia and then bringing them back here and trying to sell them through third-party partners, you wouldn't want anybody taking pictures either. So real briefly, I'm going to talk about also auxiliary power. That's nuclear power. But then there's also this auxiliary power which is available through these things called RTGs. And this uses a different type of nuclear reaction, which is more generating heat, which can generate electricity, the thermoelectric effect. And I'll just show you these snap things, mainly used in, but they're compact nuclear reactors, mainly used in satellites. And so they started out small, as they always do. You can see the continuation here, but you can see these were used in the Apollo project. And these folks that have invested in this stuff on Wall Street want very much for this to be successful. I can only say that in Alabama, you have both. First of all, you have Lockheed, and then your foreign partner is a company called Austal, okay, that are using these. So again, here's Comey, a very key person in all this, and the FBI's investment. And of course, you've got Aerojet again, which is General Dynamics, I believe. So you know that the people we're talking about and the parts we're talking about are right on the money. We're not, this isn't a wild goose chase. Again, these payments, if you go through, you look at this Ambassador Kislyak, he's a nuclear engineer. He's ex-military, he's a nuclear engineer. He's gone back to being a politician in Russia now. But if you look at some of the people that we're talking about, what they've done is they've taken $2.4 million in payments, and they've just cherry-picked $370,000 of probably innocent payments to actually do real renovations. And they've left out the part, they've had a Kurt Eichenwald look at it and say, hey, I know how to spin this. The Republicans will go after this, and then it'll be a bunch of innocent bricklayers and so forth. But if you really drill down into the report, you'll find things like payments to different Russian military folks. Here we go. Captain Vasilyevsk Ketselyev or whatever, Ketselstov or whatever his name is, Russian Defense, Air, Navy, military attaches. Okay, this is the key to the article, and you saw how deeply it was buried. But I've seen this Kurt Eichenwald type treatment. Jason Leopold would be a similar person that would be trusted to say, hey, take out the most innocuous pieces of this, present this to the public, and then bury this part of the these defense attaches, the military, air, and naval. Okay, so just so people realize that Jeff Sessions has been a member of the Foreign Senate Armed Services Committee for a long, long time. It's not something that's recently happened. And his friendship with Steve Bannon, who is sort of the investment cat of Washington, the pay-to-play expert, has been his friend a long time, before the friendship with Donald Trump. And people said, oh, he didn't get in office until February 2017. Well, he did meet with Kislyak in July of 2016 and September of 2016. And he didn't mention those two meetings. Here again, I'm not trying to go after Jeff Sessions, but I know how Hillary Clinton and I know how the DOD works and the Navy works. Is what they want you to do is they want you to give some kind of envelope in your office. Either you get an envelope or you give an envelope. But that's how the FBI works. They entrap to make sure that all their crime partners are accomplices in the deal. Okay? So you saw how much Steve Bannon was working down in Alabama, to make sure that Roy Moore was elected and so forth. Well, I believe one of the key partners here that makes those fuel rods and also makes these aluminum boats is Austell, and they make a combat ship called the littoral ship that I talked about yesterday. You can see that they're down here in Mobile, Alabama, and they're also making a lot of these passenger ferries, commercial passenger ferries. But the big increase in their business, the reason why they've really increased, is making these combat fast littoral ships, and it's had quite a jump since 2008. Again, this is an Australian company coming into the United States. Now, I believe that they are going to be trying to use different power plants in these I believe these are all electric boats now, for use of these, either for the fuel rods, the older technology, or this newer SNAP technology as nuclear reactors get smaller. I can tell you this older technology here. Here's the fuel rods in the NS Savannah. There was 4 bundles of 41 rods. You saw how long it was and so forth. But there's a lot of effort inside of the Navy to reduce the size of these, and also icebreakers. The Russians have used nuclear reactors for icebreakers for a long time. The first nuclear merchant ship wasn't such a success, but they are. I'm going to guarantee you that they're going to be looking at both of these reactor technologies in the future, the Steve Bannons of the world. In addition to, these are the power plants and supplies for satellites. I guess that's the key here, is that's going to be the area of emphasis. Here's Saucier, if you've never seen him. And there he said it right there, and I think that rounds out the whole discussion of the pay-to-play. If you're a little guy and you do the lowest level, you go to jail. If you're the big top dogs trading in this with Russian crime partners, you get away scot-free.